met them to the time they were listed on the ASX was just over 12 months. And we raised about 33 million for Martin Aircraft over that time through a pre-IPO and the IPO. So it's a great success story. We first started cap raising at 27 cents. They listed at 40 cents. It's now trading at 80 cents, but the shares actually popped to $3.15 at one point. So it completely went crazy when we first listed, and then it settled back down around the 80 cents to $1 mark. Peter is just he's literally in Sydney for today, only flying back to New Zealand tomorrow, but he's actually on his way back from the Paris Air Show, where they presented the Jetpack for the first time. So can everyone please welcome Peter Coker, CEO.
Ruben is just setting that up. Those of you, after you finished at the back, you'll see beer mats, not because we're a Kiwi company, we love it. We've created a bit of disruptive technology around the fact that you can download an app. You won't be able to see it all, but actually if you put the beer mat in front of the actual... you actually get a picture of the Jetpack itself, and you can rotate it around and do whatever you like with it. Plus it has the videos on there, and it has the parachute video on there as well. So it's pretty cool stuff that we did in Paris. Not surprisingly, it went down pretty well, and we got through a fair few thousand of those. There you go. Thanks. For those of you, welcome to my channel. It's good to see a lot of you here. All I'm going to do is really just update you a little bit of what's going on and what we've been doing over the past 4 months, and it seems like only 2 weeks since the IPO. You would have seen this before, and I'm just going to touch upon just a couple of things. Firstly, the V4 2-litre engine, which is what we've been doing on the testing side of things. We're now starting to move away from that. The prospectus was very clear that we had a high risk area in there, so now what we're doing is we're looking to move forward in 3 or 4 particular areas. The first is around a rotary engine, which is off the shelf, and we're working very closely with a company around that right now. The second is we're putting 2 designs in. One is a 4-stroke cylinder engine, and the other one is a 2-stroke cylinder engine, but with 6 cylinders. It's not a V, it's actually a 150, which actually means that the problems that we were having with the present engine have actually gone away. The other area you can see here is that it talks about CAA registered aircraft. We're now working with the CAA, we're working with the FAA, and we're working with CASA around writing our own rules, because actually that's what they'd like us to do. So we're now moving forward quite rapidly in those particular areas. I'll talk about the safety feature on the ballistic parachute. You saw a picture on there, but if you take that app that we've got, you'll actually see the true story of the parachute. We actually asked them to go down to 15 meters on their first requirement, and then we were going to go down to 10 as the final requirement. They actually achieved 11 meters in the first requirement, and they're down to 6 meters now, even right now. So actually, what we also find that even at 6 meters, if you switch the engine off and you deploy the parachute, it's sufficient drag that you will always land less than 10 meters per second, which means that this aircraft does not have a no-fly zone at all. I mean, this is a real breakthrough for us, and we're pretty excited about the fact we're now entering into these tests with the actual aircraft itself in the coming month. For those of you who don't know it, this is the technology that really makes it work. This is patented. The air gets accelerated through. It's Newton's law, keeps you airborne, and then you use the deflection of the air to actually move you forward as well. This industry overview, as actually, well, the one that I want to bring to your attention is the UAV market. The UAV market has grown even greater than you see here. When we were in Paris, the actual market itself is said to have been double what you're actually seeing here. That's pretty exciting for us, because what we've now doing is actually creating a half-size model for developmental purposes using an off-the-shelf engine that we're going to be using anyway, and actually finding that that can lift 50 kilograms. So suddenly we've created through our test schedules a potential further revenue stream for us in the future, which is a medium heavy lift rather than the very heavy lift that we've got. Applications for the first, for the Martin Jetpack. You saw the video was around targeting the first responder. That's clearly where we're heading towards, and I've just come back from Washington, literally through today, and we tested this with the people around the first responders. They didn't know about the Jetpack, but as soon as we briefed them, there was absolutely no doubt that they actually want this. And so we're now working very rapidly to put our feet on the ground in the US, working with AvWatch that you knew we already had an agreement with out of Boston, to try to develop that as quickly as we possibly can. Also, we're getting a lot of interest through the agriculture now, particularly around spraying requirements in a lot of the countries. And having that medium heavy lift as well as the heavy lift aircraft is going to be beneficial to us in the future. Finally, the simulator, which you saw very briefly on there, attracted a lot of attention at the air show. We actually had it flying around Paris with the Oculus Rift glasses. So the database was such that you had people actually going up the inside of the Eiffel Tower as part of their flying, which was a lot of fun for a lot of people. We've now established our business lines. Again, this is around the maturity over the last 4 months. And we can see there the Jetpack sales are based upon the commercial, the medium and the heavy lift, the personal Jetpack, going from the saving human lives to flying the dream. So there's some branding that's also gone on around where we're going. I think the key to it around us is that the Jetpack display team that we're putting together is actually going to be part of our marketing process in its own right. A lot of interest around there, and we're actually starting to look at where we're going to be displaying the aircraft over the coming year. Those of you that saw the prospectus will have seen this, and actually we are on track. In fact, we're slightly further ahead on the simulator and the UAV, and I think that's a pretty exciting time for us. So everything is on track. We started off with 16 people when we went to the IPO. We're now up to 42, and we will actually top out at around about 98 in about the next 8 or 9 months. So part of the challenge is around the rate of growth for us. So as you know, we didn't do much sales and marketing until we went to Paris, although we do have now what's called a beachhead market strategy, where we're targeting those areas that we already had established prior to the IPO and really refining those as we go. My VP Sales and Marketing has been out of the office now for just over 2.5 months, gaining that information and moving around into our potential customers, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So what about the Paris Air Show? Well, we've really tried this just to take the information across to other people. What we have discovered is nobody knows about us, which is really surprising when you think about New Zealand. But that actually was exactly the same case when I pitched about, whatever it was, about 8 months ago here. Nobody knew about us then either. So we have some work to do around that marketing. But what was really fascinating is when you get tweeted to say the only people you should go and see at the Paris Air Show is the Martin Jetpack stand, that actually says something for a show that's that size. Remember, it's the biggest show, very similar to Farmer. So Farmer and Paris alternate each year. 50+ simulator sorties per day, a very serviceable simulator. It only broke once, and that was because one of our guys did something quite wrong with it, but we fixed it within about 15 minutes. Massive people were fascinated with it. You could see them come around the corner and look at this thing, they smile, they run away, and they bring 5 or 6 people around. So they actually didn't know about it. But what it allowed us to do was really control the customer base. And we had a lot of potential customers coming in. You may have heard that we signed 4 agreements, and I'll go through those very quickly. The first one is through actually a subsidiary of AVIC International. It's an MOU. Now, AVIC is a Chinese company, and it's the only Chinese company that has anything to do with aviation. It is government funded, and if you're with AVIC, you know that you will always succeed in aviation. They already have the airspace for us to go and fly, even though we're not registered in China. So, and not only that, they tell the Chinese authorities, in terms of the air traffic and environment, what to actually say and what they can do. So we're actually very happy to be with AVIC International. Now, the point about that one and the next one is they're both part of the joint venture. So the joint venture is now up and running in terms of registered with the 2 directors, and we're now putting someone in place probably in the next couple of weeks. Initially at business development, because the way that they like to do business over there is they don't put the general manager in straight away, they put someone in lower down to see if he has the capacity to grow. The second one is Beijing Flyman Company. Now, don't worry about the Flyman, because we had a slight problem translating the words that they used in China into English. And that's why it came out as Flying Man. Actually, it's not what Flying Man is, but that's the closest we could get to the translation on that one. And we're working on an MOU right now towards the future delivery. And this is only tranche 1. So they're going to sign up to, subject to the terms and conditions, of 100-man jetpacks, 50-man jetpacks, 25 simulators, and 25 statics. And those of you that know, when we were presenting, we had a very slow ramp-up rate of 45 in the first year. Well, we've already exceeded that now, so now we're thinking around the company is how do we accelerate our ramp-up rate in order to be able to achieve what we know is going to be the requirements. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. Martin SRO, the Czechoslovakian agreement has now been signed. They were major investors very early on, great people. We will be at the Czech Air Show as a static and a simulator again. So the equipment that was at the Paris Air Show is now sitting over in Europe and will stay in Europe as part of our process. The final one is M2K, an Indian Alliance Agreement. That particular company has a lot of influence and a lot of understanding of the marketplace. They have done an awful lot around the research around that as well. So we're now moving into the business plan around India. So we raised our 27 million. On the sales and marketing side, we are moving well down that list around the alliancing agreements, moving forward on the letters of intent. We're now working with our watch to move from a letter of intent to an MOU. On the corporate side, completed the management team and the R&D team, as I mentioned before. We have outgrown our facilities that we said that we're going to be there for the next 25 years. So we've actually taken a lease on a building about 100 meters away, and we've just moved all the engineers into that particular area. Not ideal, but actually what is interesting is the number one shareholder, Quanxi Science, are looking for us to actually build an infrastructure environment to support ourselves and them in New Zealand, because they do a lot of near space technology in New Zealand. The production team is up and running in terms of the head of production, and we're moving forward very rapidly on that. The supply chain, we've qualified a number of suppliers right now, and we're working forward with a very good supplier around the composites as well, so we're de-risking that part of the program. Slight change to the board of directors. You notice one has gone, and we've got two extra. The two extra, Dr. Leo Ropang, he is the founder and owner and chairman of Quanxi Science, and Yang, Dr. Zhang, is the CEO of Quanxi Science. And actually, they are superb individuals, superb people to have on a board. They are all around technology, they're around getting the job done, get out there and do it. And as you know, they also had a convertible note that was supposed to actually come to fruition when we had a VWAP of 30 days at $1.30. 30 days after the IPO, they can now call down that note. So they're sitting there waiting for that, so we have another 21 million ready to call down whenever we want to. Extra additional now, you saw him in the video, Mike Reeves, come out of the Royal Australian Air Force, a superb guy, a strategist, very highly intellectual, and also very, very good in the regulatory environment. We've already kicked off a whole team looking at the regulatory processes around the world. So, that's all I've got. I'm very happy to take any questions at this particular stage.
We'll just have a quick couple of questions before we wrap things up. Does anyone? I know there's quite a few shareholders here, so.
A mini question. I noticed your CV said you're Royal Air Force.
I am. Was.
Yes, but the Australian was not the Royal Australian Air Force. You had the Australian Air Force. But why has he been demoted?
I shall certainly correct that.
The last I heard was that you are testing land. Is that
20 to 25.
35 meters of
Altitude.
water?
So at the moment, when we don't have the parachute fitted, what we do is we do all man testing over water, so that obviously if there's some sort of catastrophic failure, then they just fall into the water rather than anything else. What we're doing now is we're swapping out the Mark 1 engine for what's called the Mark 1X. We've got 3 aircraft now and engines to support that. So that requirement requires us to actually work the engine for about 30 minutes. It then gets taken off, gets stripped down and put back on again. That is not the production aircraft. All we're doing is getting that 1X ready for us to support all the flying. Incidentally, with Director of Flight Ops, we've done more flying in the past 3 months than we had done in the past 5 years. So actually it does show you we're moving forward. But as soon as we get the parachute fitted, and as soon as we get the reliability of the Mark 1X engine, then we'll be bringing it out into the public in the man display.
Another question here?
With a payload of 120 kilos, is it not envisaged that you go in and pick someone up and take someone out?
So the concept around this is through the mule train. So you have up to 5 of the aircraft who are electronically tethered to the front one that's got the pilot in. Because it's fly-by-wire, as soon as you let go, it stays in that present position, does whatever it likes, and then you can step back and take control of the ones behind, go and, as an unmanned vehicle, go and either pick somebody up or drop off supplies, and then either bring them back into the mule train or send them to a registered GPS environment and just send them home.
And it fly in windy
So for takeoff, what we're doing is we're looking to design a specific, like a box, because you can actually get this thing airborne in your garage and just fly out of the garage. So like any other aircraft, it gets affected by wind. It doesn't matter the size of the aircraft. What the great thing around the simulator is that you can actually put that in there and show the effect around buildings and things like that. But also the fact that it's a fly-by-wire means that the aircraft itself will make those corrections to that wind as well. It'd still be turbulent if you're out in turbulent conditions, but it is very much better than flying like a microlight or an ultralight aircraft.
We'll just we'll wrap things up now because we're a little bit over time. But can everyone please thank Peter?